Good morning, greetings, welcome. Today is January 15th, 2024, and today is a day that we celebrate none other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Oh, this is not just a day off of school or a day off of work. This is a day to truly celebrate a legendary person. Dr. King dealt with so much adversity during his lifetime. You know, his house was bombed. He received death threats all the time. His family was threatened. Not only that, he was put in jail. He was attacked physically. And he still dealt with all of that because he believed so strongly in justice for all. He believed in nonviolence. So when people met him with violence, he didn't return violence to them. No, he acted in love. He acted in nonviolence. And sometimes he would just sit there and take it and walk away. And he encouraged others to do that. And as a result, we saw the passing of the Civil Rights Movement in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act in 1965. And even after he died, there was a second Civil Rights Act that was signed by President Johnson. And so because of what he was doing, he was a part of a bigger movement. And his practices really allowed for people to pay attention. Because you know what? When the news crews came and they would videotape these marches, and you saw individuals that were marching peacefully, and you saw them being met with vicious dogs and other people attacking them with billy clubs, people's hearts were softened, and they looked and said, why are these Black people being treated this way? They just want equality. And it was through that nonviolence again that we saw the needle move forward and we saw people get closer to equality. Now there's still work to do. And today we were going to go to a march here in San Antonio. We have this huge Dr. Martin Luther King march that's held every year. But because of the inclement weather, it's very cold here, and we're going to have a wintry mix. They canceled the entire march. But I'm still going to celebrate Dr. King. And so as a result, I am going to be reading Martin's Big Words, because this book really tells us about his life, and we get to see what he was doing more than just saying, "I have a dream," because that was a great speech that he gave. But he had so many other speeches that he delivered as he wanted to get that message out about love, about justice for all, and equality for all. You know, he didn't just stand up for people with brown skin. He was concerned about people that were fighting in a war that we didn't even know why we were fighting. He was concerned about people that didn't even make enough money to live on or to support a family. He had a poor people's campaign in Washington, D.C. He was concerned about justice. Without further ado, let's get right into Martin's Big Words. Martin's Big Words, the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. This book was written by Doreen, Rappaport, and it was illustrated by Bryan, Collier. Everywhere in Martin's hometown, he saw the signs, white only. His mother said these signs were in all southern cities and towns in the United States. Every time Martin read the words, he felt bad until he remembered what his mother told him. "You are as good as anyone." In church, Martin sang hymns he read from the Bible. He listened to his father preach. These words made him feel good. When I grow up, I'm going to get big words too. Martin grew up. He became a minister like his father, and he used the big words he had heard as a child from his parents and from the Bible. Everyone can be great. He studied the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. He learned how the Indian nation won freedom without ever firing a gun. Martin said, "Love," when others said hate. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. He said, "Together," when others said separate. He said peace when others said war. Sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together. In 1955, on a cold December day in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks was coming home from work. A white man told her to get up from her seat on the bus so he could sit. She said no and was arrested. Montgomery's black citizens learned of her arrest. It made them angry. They decided not to ride the buses until they could sit anywhere they wanted. For 381 days, they walked to work and school and church. They walked in the rain and cold and in the blistering heat. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them until the white city leaders had to agree they could sit anywhere they wanted. When the history books are written, someone will say there lived black people who had the courage to stand up for their rights. In the next 10 years, black Americans all over the South protested for equal rights. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. White ministers told them to stop. Mayors and governors and police chiefs and judges ordered them to stop. But they kept on marching. Wait! For years I have heard the word wait. We have waited more than 340 years for our rights. They were jailed and beaten and murdered, but they kept on marching. Some black Americans wanted to fight back with their fists. Martin convinced them not to, by reminding them of the power of love. Love is the key to the problems of the world. Many white Southerners hated and feared Martin's words. A few threatened to kill him and his family. His house was bombed. His brother's house was bombed. But he refused to stop. Remember, if I am stopped, this movement will not be stopped, because God is with this movement. The marches continued. More and more Americans listened to Martin's words. He shared his dreams and filled them with hope. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. After 10 years of protests, the lawmakers in Washington voted to end segregation. The white-only signs in the South came down. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. cared about all Americans. He cared about people all over the world. And people all over the world admired him. In 1964, He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He won it because he taught others to fight with words, not fists. Martin went wherever people needed him. In April 1968, he went to Memphis, Tennessee. He went to help garbage collectors who were on strike. He walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. On his second day there, he was shot. He died. Freedom, peace. His big words are alive for us today. Together, I have a dream. Love. And that is the end. And at the back of the book, they give us some important dates. January 15th, 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia. And we have a whole bunch of events. One of the latter events is April 4th, 1968. Dr. King is assassinated. On April 11th, 1968, that's a week later, President Johnson signs the Second Civil Rights Act. On October 19th, 1981, the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Change, also called the King Center, opens in Atlanta, Georgia. November 22nd, 1982, the United States Senate approves the erection of a monument to Dr. King in Washington, D.C. And January 15th, 1986, Dr. King's birthday is celebrated as a national holiday for the first time. And that's what we're celebrating today, Dr. King and his birthday and his legacy and impact on this world. We are so thankful that he had courage to stand up for what he knew was right, despite the threats, despite the attacks, despite being jailed. He continued to fight for others. We thank him for his example, and I hope that as you go out into the world today, that you too make a difference and stand up for what's right. Until we read again, take care.